My sister demanded that I postpone my wedding because she had recently gotten divorced. When I refused, my parents skipped my wedding and threw all my things on the lawn. I am Lexi, 27F, and my entire family is mad at me. Before you judge me, please hear my story. I have a sister named Rose, 32F, who got divorced a few months ago. It's been a tough time, and I've been trying to be there for her. But if I'm being honest, Rose and I have never been close. She was not a good big sister. She and her little group of friends tormented me for years, and my parents never intervened. I always felt like an outsider in my family. Fast forward to a few months ago, when Rose got divorced. She's been a mess since then. She didn't work, so she had to move back in with our parents. I'm not close to my parents or Rose, and I don't visit them often, so it didn't matter to me. Even growing up, I always felt like the black sheep. Rose was the golden child. She did everything right, straight S, perfect prom queen moments, and my parents adore her. Meanwhile, I was the rebellious, difficult one. I got into arguments, broke curfew, dyed my hair crazy colors, you name it. But the worst part was how Rose made me feel. She would bully me. Not just casually, but it was as if she went out of her way to exclude me from making plans with her friends right in front of me, to spreading rumors about me at school. She made sure I knew I wasn't welcome. And then there was my parents' reaction, or lack thereof. No matter what Rose did, they always took her side. I remember telling them once about the things she said to me, and they brushed it off, saying, "Oh, that's just how sisters are." It hurt a lot, and I carried that resentment into adulthood. However, about a month after my sister's divorce, my partner, Joshua, 29M, proposed to me. It was one of the happiest moments of my life. I had been waiting for this for a while. Joshua and I had been together for almost 4 years, and we had talked about marriage a lot. So when he finally proposed, it felt like everything was falling into place. Naturally, I told my parents right away, even though we weren't exactly close. I thought maybe, just maybe, this could be something that would bring us together. I started getting into wedding planning mode almost immediately: venues, dresses, flowers, you know the drill. I was so excited to share this moment with my friends and the few family members I'm actually close with. But then, a few weeks later, I got a call from my mom. She sounded serious and told me they had something important to discuss with me. Honestly, my first thought was that maybe it had something to do with Rose and her whole post-divorce mess. I had a gut feeling that whatever was coming wasn't going to be good. So I drove to their house the next evening, kind of bracing myself for the worst. Sure enough, as soon as I sat down, my mom came out with it. She told me that they were hoping I would postpone my wedding by 2 years. Yes, 2 years, because Rose had just gotten divorced. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My wedding postponed because my sister got divorced? It was so absurd that I actually laughed out loud for a second, thinking she must be joking. But nope, she was dead serious. She explained that Rose was still heartbroken and needed time to move on and potentially find another man. Apparently, my wedding would somehow interfere with that process. I sat there stunned and asked my mom if she was really serious. How could she even think that my wedding had anything to do with Rose's love life? My wedding, one of the biggest days of my life, was supposed to be delayed because of Rose's bad decisions. My mom then hit me with a classic "we're a family and we need to support each other" line. I've heard this from her a million times. It's always about supporting Rose. It's like they expect me to just be this silent, supportive figure in the background, constantly putting her needs first. I couldn't help but get angry. I told my mom this was ridiculous, flat out stupid, and that I couldn't believe she had the nerve to ask me something like that. Then I just left. I didn't want to stay there and listen to more of their excuses or guilt tripping. But it didn't stop there. My mom kept calling me over the next few days, trying to convince me that this was the right thing to do and that it wasn't just about Rose, but about the family as a whole. She kept saying how unfair it would be for Rose to attend my wedding while still dealing with her divorce. But when has life ever been fair? Things don't stop just because one person is going through something. It's not like I'm trying to rub my happiness in Rose's face. I just want to get married and start my life with Joshua. My dad got involved too, which was a surprise because he's usually pretty hands-off when it comes to this kind of drama. He tried to reason with me, saying how emotional Rose was right now and how my wedding would be too much for her to handle. He made it sound like my wedding would be this huge burden on her, as if my happiness was somehow going to make her more miserable. But again, I just don't see how that's my problem. I can't control how she feels, and I certainly can't put my life on hold. Definitely not just to spare her feelings. After that, my parents kept calling and bugging me for days. Every time I saw their name pop up on my phone, I just knew it was going to be more of the same guilt trip about postponing the wedding. Honestly, I was starting to lose my patience with them. My sister, on the other hand, hadn't said a word to me. It was all coming from my parents, and I was beginning to wonder if this was really what Rose wanted, or if my parents were just projecting their own issues onto me. So after about a week of this back and forth, I decided to take matters into my own hands and call Rose directly. I was pretty calm at first, just trying to get to the bottom of it. I asked her straight up if she was the one who put my parents up to this, or if they were just overreacting on their own. And that's when she confirmed it. Yes, she did think it would be better if I postponed the wedding. Her reasoning? She said that during the wedding, all the relatives would be asking her about the divorce, and she wasn't ready to deal with that kind of attention. I was stunned. I understand that a divorce is a big deal, but this was the wedding we were talking about, one of the biggest days of my life. Why should my wedding be overshadowed by her worries about what people might say to her? I told her, as calmly as I could, that this was my wedding and I highly doubted anyone would be pestering her about something so personal at an event that was supposed to be about Joshua and me. I mean, let's be real. At weddings, people are too busy focusing on the couple getting married, the food, the dancing, and their own lives. Who's going to go up to Rose and ask invasive questions about her failed marriage at my wedding of all places? But of course, she wasn't willing to listen. She just kept insisting that she wasn't emotionally ready to face everyone and that if I cared about her at all, I'd consider waiting until she felt stronger and more prepared to handle the attention. The more she talked, the angrier I got. I finally just laid it out for her. I told her that the wedding was going to happen whether she liked it or not, and whether she or our parents showed up or not. I wasn't going to put my life on hold just because she was insecure about people asking her uncomfortable questions. That was on her to deal with, not me. After I hung up, I called my parents right away and told them the same thing. I said, "Look, I love you guys, but I'm not postponing the wedding. If you want to support me, that would be great. If not, I'll understand. But the wedding is happening with or without you." My mom predictably started crying, saying how I was tearing the family apart and how Rose needed time to heal. But at that point, I had made up my mind. I wasn't going to back down. And the wedding did happen 3 weeks ago. I got married to Joshua, and it was beautiful. Even though my parents didn't show up, I won't lie, walking down the aisle alone was tough. I had imagined that moment my whole life, and in my head, it always involved my dad by my side. But as I walked toward Joshua, seeing his face light up with that huge smile, it hit me that I was doing this for us. Not for my parents, not for Rose, not for anyone, but for Joshua and me. And honestly, that was enough. I felt at peace with my decision. I was surrounded by my closest friends and the people who truly support us. Once the ceremony was over and we got to the reception, things got a little more complicated. Most of my extended family had shown up, including some aunts, uncles, and cousins who hadn't been involved in the drama. But they noticed. They noticed that my parents weren't there, and they noticed the tension. Some asked about it, but I just brushed it off, said it was a family matter, and didn't get into details. I wasn't there to explain why my family wasn't supporting me. I was there to celebrate with the people who were. Eventually, I heard from my mom. She left me a message, basically telling me she was upset that I didn't consider her feelings and how it was a huge disappointment. But that's all it was, another message full of guilt and manipulation. And honestly, I'm done with it. I know I have to live my life on my terms, not according to what they want or expect of me. And I'm proud of the woman I've become. That's my story. Maybe I'm the bad guy in all of this, but I really don't care anymore. I'm happy, and I'm finally free from the toxic hold my family had over me for so long.